Look, we're at a pivotal moment here. The winter meetings kick off December 8th through the 10th, and if you believe the insiders, this is when everything explodes. We're talking Kyle Tucker, we're talking Bo Bichette, Edwin Diaz, Kyle Schwarber. All the major pieces still sitting out there could find homes in the next week. And for the Blue Jays, this stretch is absolutely critical. John Morosi was on MLB Network dropping some interesting intel. He's calling it a potential winter meeting signing extravaganza, and honestly, that tracks with what we've seen in previous years. Think about it. 2 years ago, it was Shohei Ohtani. Last year, Juan Soto. The winter meetings have become this pressure cooker where everyone converges in one place, the conversations intensify, the drinks start flowing in Orlando, and suddenly deals that have been brewing for weeks finally get done. What's fascinating is Morosi's point about Kyle Tucker being the domino that sets everything else in motion. He's the biggest fish available, the guy who's going to command the most money and the longest deal. Once Tucker signs, that's when teams who miss out start pivoting to their backup plans. And for Toronto, according to Morosi, it really does seem like an either-or situation between Tucker and Bichette at this point. Now, a few weeks back, we had Bob Nightingale on and asked him point blank, is there any scenario where the Jays get both Tucker and Bichette? At the time, he said yes, it was possible, but that was before the Dylan Cease signing. Post-Cease, the math gets a lot trickier. You're talking potentially $200 million for Bichette, maybe $400 million for Tucker. That's $600 million right there before you've even addressed the bullpen situation that desperately needs fixing. Even for Edward Rogers, who clearly wants to win and win now, approaching $1 billion in commitments this winter feels unrealistic. The Bichette situation is particularly interesting because there's been this strategic waiting game happening. Shea Davidi made a great point about this. Both the Blue Jays and Bichette's camp might benefit from letting the market develop and dictate the terms. Because honestly, I cannot remember another free agent where the projections have been so wildly different. You've got people saying he'll get $150 million, others saying $300 million. Nobody can agree on what position he should even play, second base or shortstop, and that obviously impacts his value. Some think he'll demand opt-outs, others don't. It's all over the map. So waiting for Tucker to sign makes total sense. That establishes the high watermark for position player money, gives Bichette's camp leverage with other offers, and helps everyone understand what the actual market value is. If Tucker gets $400 million over 12 years, that provides context. If he gets 350 over 10, that's different information. Let the biggest domino fall first, then figure out where the chips land. The Dylan Cease signing was huge for Toronto because it checked off one major box without interfering with the hitting market. They needed that ace-level starter. They went out and got one, and it didn't impact their ability to pursue Tucker or Bichette or improve the lineup. That's smart roster construction, addressing different parts of the team simultaneously. But on the hitting side, almost nobody significant has signed yet. Josh Naylor just went back to Seattle on what was honestly a steal for the Mariners, but beyond that, the big bats are still available. The pitching market has moved a bit more. The big news last night was Devin Williams going to the Mets, which caught a lot of people off guard. Most assumed if Williams left Milwaukee, he'd end up with the Yankees, not the other New York team. That signing immediately raised questions about Edwin Diaz. Are the Mets moving on from their expensive closer? According to Anthony DiComo, not necessarily. The Mets are apparently still in on bringing Diaz back, which makes some sense. Williams struggled last year and spent most of the season as a setup man, not closing. So the Mets adding Williams doesn't automatically mean Diaz is gone. They could just be building a monster back end of the bullpen. But it does potentially change the dynamics. If the market on Diaz gets too rich for the Mets' liking, they now have a fallback option in Williams, who could slide into the closer role. And for Toronto, who's been connected to basically every available reliever, this is relevant. The reliever market is moving fast. Ryan Helsley went to Baltimore. Raisel Iglesias back to Atlanta. There's buzz around Pete Fairbanks. The Jays keep getting linked to these guys and keep missing out. I genuinely expect Toronto to make a move for a closer or high leverage reliever in the next few days. The market is too active to wait, and they need to address that bullpen. Edwin Diaz feels like a winter meeting signing. similar to Tucker, one of those moves that gets done when everyone's in the same place and can hammer out details quickly. The Devin Williams signing might have taken one New York team out of the Diaz sweepstakes, but it could ignite the other one. The Yankees need bullpen help. They've got money to spend even with their supposed budget constraints, and Diaz would be a major addition. So the competition for elite relievers remains intense. Looking at the next 7 days, this is where Toronto really needs to execute. The winter meetings are the unofficial official start of free agency chaos. The Jays jumped ahead with Cease, which was smart and unexpected, but now comes the hard part. This is where you plant your flag for the entire offseason. If Tucker says no, you immediately pivot to Bichette and don't let him leave the building unsigned. You get aggressive in that closer market. You make the moves that define your 2025 roster. Ross Atkins getting out ahead with the Cease signing was encouraging because it guaranteed they'd accomplish something significant this winter. Now it's about maintaining that momentum and keeping the foot on the gas. I'm curious how far they'll push on Tucker knowing Bichette is still available as a fallback. Do they prioritize bringing back their homegrown star and maintaining that relationship and clubhouse continuity? Or do they just go all in on the best available player regardless of fit or history? My sense is they've got their number on both guys. The analytics department has crunched everything, spit out a valuation, and the front office is comfortable going to that number, and maybe 5% beyond if negotiations get real. But if Tucker wants significantly more, they're prepared to walk away and immediately engage with Bichette. I don't think we're going to see a repeat of past winters where they chase everyone and end up with nothing. They're going to land one of these guys, but like Morosi said, it's probably just one. Tucker feels like the faster-moving market. Once he signs, probably at the winter meetings, everything else accelerates. Bichette's situation might take longer to develop. Everyone's focused on Tucker right now, and Bichette's camp is smart to wait, let other teams miss on Tucker, and then field offers when teams are desperate to add impact bats. That market could easily drag into January, especially with Christmas and the holidays slowing things down after the winter meetings. But either way, this week is massive. This is where the Blue Jays offseason gets defined. They've made one major move. Now they need to make 2 or 3 more. Get the big bat, fix the bullpen, maybe add another piece, and suddenly you've got a completely different roster heading into spring training. The pieces are there, the money is available, the willingness to spend seems genuine after the Cease deal. Now it's about execution. We're going to be covering everything as it develops, multiple streams, podcasts with breaking news, analysis of every rumor and signing. If you're invested in how this shakes out, now's the time to stay locked in because this week is when everything happens. The winter meetings have delivered drama in the past, and with this many big names still unsigned, 2025 should be no different.